2025. I'm going to ask Ms. Lynette to take roll call.
Tommy Jewell,
Present.
Matthew Ray,
Present.
William Walker,
Present.
Mr. Stewart,
Here, ma'am.
Dan Layden. Here. Debbie Strong. Here. Richard Clark,
Present.
Mr. Wismer,
Here.
Elena Giacchi. Here.
All right, it appears all board members are present. Thank you all for being here today. Let's move on to item number 3 on the agenda. It's the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from our February 21st, 2025 meeting. I'll entertain a motion. Been moved by Vice Chair Strongin to accept the minutes. Is there a second?
I second.
Been seconded by Board Member Stewart. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes passed. Thank you very much. Item number 4 on the agenda is public comment. I see we have one individual from the public here today. Is there any on the line that have expressed interest to speak or make public comment?
Nobody on the line.
Okay, anybody present that wishes to make public comment?
No, I'm just here to observe.
All right, very well. Seeing no further public comment, we'll move on to item number 5 and welcome Sheriff Allen and Major Burke.
Hello, all. Good to see everybody. Decided to come in here and address everybody, and then I'll have Major Burke speak. Update you on a lot of things that's going on with the office. As you know, I just made promotions for Under Sheriff Anderson and Major Burke. That way we can move on and move forward the mission we have since we've been dealing with this DWI scandal. A lot that I can't update you on that. I'm still working in conjunction with the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office and some other items that I'm looking into. But in terms of that, I think people mostly want to know how you move forward and how you deal with that other than personnel issues. How do you prevent this again? What safeguards do you put into place? What can you do better so this doesn't happen again? So through all the technology that I've been speaking to all of you about probably over the last 2 to 3 years, we have found that, and that'll be one of Major Burke's main jobs, but we already have a bunch of dashboards built out. So it's just not about DWI unit. What I look at as the sheriff is what other unit could this possibly happen in the sheriff's office? And we've identified 1 or 2 where it could be a possibility. Whenever you have proactive units, you make sure, of course, that you have really good supervisors. But when you look at around the nation and the failures that I also looked at and studied, what units could be susceptible to possible corruption, to possible lack of oversight, to possible lack of resources in conjunction coming to a failure and something like this happening again. So we've identified those. The dashboards will be built up for all of our command staff. And it's mostly also for people who miss court for officer prosecuted cases, just not DWI. Are we missing out on narcotics cases that are at a misdemeanor level? And if we are, why? If we're losing those cases, why? Do we need more training? What else do we need to do? And that also goes into conjunction with being responsible for the technology we have, such as body cams. So now we have a dashboard up where we can see when people are turning their body cams on and off. That's going to be left up to Major Burke here. And then what is the trend, which goes into, and we coalesce with the compliance officer that we'll be hiring. And that's where I asked all of you to be involved. Since Major Burke is here now, they're going through a lot of the applications. And I know a lot of you have questions on that and what the role will be as far as on the interviews. We want to make sure we pick the right person. Not only people that have the knowledge, the background, either the education, the experience, but people that also can get and work with parts of our command staff, because we have so many different facets running at the same time. So my idea was I wanted to think way outside of the box and pretty much do something unprecedented. So not only SOARB could have a look into how we conduct our interview process, just not on this position, but also have county legal there. And then to be on the interview board to ask questions that we have, because we want to make sure that there's not any conflict of interest. And if there is, what is that conflict of interest? And it could interrupt and ruin that role in itself. So we make sure that we have community trust with that position. So that's what I was looking for, not to make all of you feel uncomfortable. It's going to be completely up to you, of course, whether or not you want to be on the board or whether or not you just want to look the process of what's going on. But we will be moving forward on that, and Major Burke we'll be making, interview dates and times here sometime mid next week as we start looking through the applications. But on that note, I will update you on a lot of other stuff to stay on track. I'll have Major Burke introduce himself and what his role will be. And that way you all are comfortable with him. So go ahead.
Again, hello, everyone, here in person and online. You can't see me, but I'm the bald guy in a black polo, so I might do a walk by so y'all can kind of see me. But I'm excited to be back at the sheriff's office. I retired, just so everyone understands my background. I retired in 2016 from the sheriff's office. I retired as a sergeant that ran our training academy. So I did everything from recruiting, selection, basic training, advanced training. I ran that entire operations for the sheriff's office. And I retired to go actually work for the University of New Mexico Police Department. The only reason I retired was I had 2 daughters getting ready to graduate high school, and I had the benefits of tuition remission. And while I was working at the university, so I had to make a very tactical decision to retire, even though I didn't want to. But I went to support my daughters through nursing school. So once I got them through nursing school, I just became kind of a free agent of sorts. And here recently, the sheriff had offered this position to me, and I was excited to come back home. That's because that's where I truly feel like the sheriff's office is my home. Always has been, always will be. So I'm excited about that. So that just kind of gives you a little background about me. I'm excited about this position. The accountability side of that, it's not the way I look at it, it's not just as an individual, and I really do mean an individual. But like the sheriff talked about, was having these dashboards of technology that we now have is absolutely just phenomenal. I can, as an individual deputy, I can look at a dashboard that we're building out, and I can see what I'm expected to do, what those benchmarks that we as an administration say, like you have to check your taser, you have to have your vehicle has to be clean, you have to check your email, something as simple as that. There's certain benchmarks that we're going to create within the system itself that an individual can hold themselves accountable. And then it builds up at every level. Supervisor's responsible for his group. So if the sheriff says, hey, we need this area command, if you will, to attend so many meetings. Well, we could build that into the program. That way, those supervisors at those different levels can hold their people accountable and say, why didn't you attend these meetings? Or why didn't you do a function test on your taser? Just, I mean, the ideas are just so vast on what we can hold our people accountable for. And then again, it's taking and being completely transparent to the public, right? To the community that we serve. If we get some requests from the community, say, hey, well, we would like to know this. Well, here, we could create it in the dashboard and make it very transparent for everyone to say, hey, look, this isn't me just scribbling some numbers down on a piece of paper saying, hey, we met those benchmarks. This is all data driven. It's already built into the program. So that's one of the things I'm really excited about and seeing how big this can really enhance our department on overall accountability. So we don't have these things that have happened in the past happen again. Something as simple as missing court, like it's immediate. It's automatically built into the system where we can track it and either redo it on a training level or identify major problems, and we can address it from an administrative level. But like I said, I'm super excited about that, and I think it's just going to enhance overall operations and transparency for the sheriff's office.
Some other updates hot off the press. Our drone as a first responder program will be moving to the next step next week. If all of you don't understand what the drone first responder next step is, does everybody know what that is, the DFR program of drones?
No, please explain.
Oh, okay. So drone as a first responders, we're expanding on our drone program, and eventually these drones will basically be drone as a first responder, and it's autonomous. It's not always coming from a deputy, meaning from our real-time operations center, we will be able to fly drones from a remote area, and they will be able to go to calls. That takes a lot of work as far as with the FAA. usually you have to have line of sight and you have to be able to see where the drone is flying. So once we get permission from the FAA, we'll be able to expand our program. The next step will be drones out of trunks, meaning deputies that we have that are being pilots. We're very particular on that because one deputy that ruins the COA ruins it for the whole agency, and then we're grounded by the FAA. So we're very picky on who we're having in charge of that program, which Major Burke will be working in conjunction with Under Sheriff Holly Anderson on and our air unit. From that step, next we will have pods, and it's called a hive. What happens basically is on our body camera that we have, from when you all started, there was always an argument over body cameras. We're very far from that now. So the deputy will be able to press a side button on their camera and it requests a drone. So what that means is we just don't want it going to clear calls and making sure that our calls for service and arrival times are low. We want to save lives. You will see in the media probably here in the next 2 to 3 weeks, me release a very story that's going to pretty shock the conscience. But this drone saved a lot of lives, and that's why we're bringing the program. Everybody's worried about Big Brother. I think this case will show that that argument is pretty much nil. It's just about being responsible and accountable and the way that the world is going. So we'll get that done also. Another update for you is I released something to the media last week on extraditions. I'm working with DA Sam Bregman and the CJCC. We're paying to bring criminals back and put them back into our community. This is the bottom line. So I'm trying a stopgap to stop that. That's the next argument that we'll have. I don't think it'll be too difficult, but I'm trying to cut out 9 or 10 or 11 meetings. We just need to get it done. No, wait for all the.
I see you on the screen, but you guys lost the volume, so unmute the conference room if you could. There you go. Can somebody talk over there?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we got you. Sorry, Sheriff. We just got you now.
But you're echoing, so you have 2 mics open, just so you know.
Can you still hear us?
Right here.
We got you. Thank you, IT.
Good job. So, 25 vacancies, that's a good problem for us. We haven't been there in, I don't know. So we are trying to figure out how we can over hire and probably start a little system like LA County that is such a jail for the court, to take care of the court problem. And if we have 20 deputies and there's 10 positions, the top 10 deputies academically are going to place in the academy, go to the field with that to go. The other 10 go to the courts and wait for a spot to open up within there. I think that's going to take care of the overtime issue I brought up at the budget meeting yesterday, and also to give us more people within the court. So a lot of things going on. I could update you probably for the next 40 minutes, honestly, but I'll leave it open for any questions or concerns.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. Thank you, Major Burke. As always, it's a real pleasure to have you all here, and just thank you for your openness and your willingness to be transparent with this board. And I want to commend you for your initiative on the compliance officer position, and wish you all the best of luck in that effort. We're going to open it up for yes. Yeah, we're going to get to questions here in a minute. I just want to just explain a little bit on the questioning, just for purposes of people watching online. In past meetings, there's kind of people talking over each other in the question and answer, and so it's a little hard for people, particularly online, watching live, as well as those who want to watch the recording beforehand. So we're going to try to be a little bit more structured in calling on board members and allowing some time for the question and answers that everybody can be heard. All right. So with that, I'm going to just start with the questions here in the room, and then we'll move to those who are up on a virtual call. Okay, rest assured, we will get to everybody. We're going to try to do it in an orderly fashion so everybody can hear. So we'll start over here with Dr. Layden. We have 2 questions.
Yes. Tell us about your work with the CJCC. We have some new board members that may not know what this committee is.
Yeah, so CJCC is a coordinating,
Criminal justice.
yeah, coordinating council. So that's on the acronyms. Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And what the best thing for it is, so we're not all working in silos. Whereas behavioral health, county legal, public defender's office, DA's office, and when there's an issue, we can address it all at once, and because there's always going to be a different problem, a different question. So it's the best way to come to center and discuss that and try to come up with a solution. So it's working better. The only issue or problem I have is I'm a person that will get things done. I don't mind 2 or 3 meetings, and I know CJCC just wrote me today. I don't have time to have 11 or 12 meetings to discuss the same thing. Let's come to a solution to get it done. So I'm trying to cut down on some of that, specifically with this extraditions. They called for another meeting. I denied it. Said the next meeting will be for a solution. I already met with everybody. So it can be a little bit more directed at that point, but it is good to bring everybody together. And then we also have presentations. For instance, with the addiction we're seeing, behavioral health, other issues, they'll bring in a presentation to see if we want to pick up that program or to be aware of it. That's always very humbling and knowledgeable because there's a lot of stuff out there that can work for our community that you do need to hear. So it's just not all executives, it's people from the community and they can really communicate with us. And that's kind of part of something that I know. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Layden. I'm just going to work my way around the room here. Vice Chair Strongin, do you have any questions or comments for the sheriff? Okay, Board Member Wismer, do you have any questions or comments? No, sir. Mr. Stewart, none. And those who are online, I think Mr. Clark had his hand up, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, thank you for attending as always. Nice to see you. Can you, and again, without giving away the master plan or the keys to the castle kind of thing is, could you talk to us recently in the media, National Guard being mobilized in Albuquerque and how and there was word that you're going to deputize everybody and all that stuff. And so I know that's not the case. And, being a retired member of the National Guard and, and that whole posse comitatus state active duty stuff, could you tell us at least if what the plan going forward is with your office, if any, and again, I don't want you to give away the operational stuff, but if anything, like in case the public asks us about, that kind of stuff, because I know that there was some stuff on the news recently.
Yeah, and I was on 7 yesterday. I'm just being honest with you, there isn't enough operations there, but as long as the office, I had so many calls yesterday and pretty transparent. I had put stuff on my Instagram and my Facebook yesterday because the calls were getting out of control, so I had to kind of address it. No, the sheriff's office, I will not deputize the National Guard. And let me rewind to the meeting I had with the governor 2 months ago. As I said, I always appreciate anybody that can look to have different ideas to fight the crime crisis. I just think it sends the wrong message. First thing that I had, and I told them the concern was that I do not want to militarize our community. That sends the wrong message completely. I know that the Albuquerque Police Department is looking for relief. I'm going to be very straightforward up front with you. That is their responsibility. It's up for the mayor and for the chief to figure out for their agency. I'm not in charge of that agency, but what was thought of before was for people to be put on corners for National Guard, on buses. I didn't agree with any of that at all. The only thing that I agreed with was for them to be National Guard involved in some of the technology such as drones to help since they have expertise in the area and to transport back and forth to MDC. I did not see a role for them at all because those lines become skewed very quickly. Whether or not think about from the National Guard role and you're an 18-year-old on the streets right now, you get somebody that confronts you and you're in a PSA uniform, what are you going to do to protect yourself? We have people guarding crime scenes that aren't armed. And then the other question was, well, hey, what if you have law enforcement? Well, my question was, if you're doing this and activating National Guard and we're short here, and then I have deputies that are National Guard and get activated, taken away from an agency, that's the dumbest idea ever. I'll just be very blunt. They said that wasn't going to happen. So then if there were law enforcement from around the nation or the state, and someone was coming from Hobbs and someone from Raton, well, we're still pulling from law enforcement. So you're basically contradicting what you're trying to do locally, but you're affecting another agency somewhere. So I don't know how they're going to do that, Richard, and how they're going to plan that. The next plan PD wanted was for people to relieve them from crime scenes. I'm worried for National Guard security, not my responsibility. I'm going to activate them. I don't know how they're going to do that. I know they're going to be trained by the Albuquerque Police Department. For me to deputize somebody, that is something that I would say that people who don't know what cross commission is, that's a huge responsibility and liability for the county as a whole. I deny a lot of cross commissions. That's basically me hiring you for me trusting you as the sheriff to carry out your duties lawfully and appropriately and with accountability. And for me to even sign up with some agencies, I really look into their agency culture. And I cross commission the Albuquerque Police Department because we intersect with unincorporated and incorporated areas. They have the parameters and the training and the reach to make sure that their people do the job correctly when they can. There's always going to be a bad apple or two, unfortunately, but they have a lot more accountability. For me to have 60 to 70 National Guard people, I have no clue who the heck they are. One, I appreciate the service that they give to our country, but I just don't want a civilian background. What if I have something that's an issue on an 18-year-old that we have no clue about, and then all of a sudden we have a use of force issue? And I'm telling you, there's going to be things that go awry that we're going to have a lot of problems and liability that fall on our shoulders. Me, the county, the public, and it also just completely opens you up to a bunch of lawsuits. And I'm not going to take on that responsibility. So I gave the governor a hard no. Had our arguments before. I'm a very blunt person. I make sure I have to do what's the best for the constituents here and for the community that I serve. So I'm pretty strict on the decision that I made. And I'll always come to the table and listen to other offers, and maybe they have a smaller amount of people they want to help, but just you need to have a plan. The biggest question I have, and a lot of people are missing, what is the end game? What are we doing? What's going to happen in a year from now? I don't want to do something for fluff and someone's here just for 30 or 60 days and we leave the community in it. It's like Route 66. I said, the only way that I'm going to be involved in that is when we can make it sustainable, because we are getting a lot of great positive feedback. And I go on a news interview in 20 minutes on what we're doing on Route 66 and how we're giving that community relief. And it's not all about the arrests. It's also people we're diverting and the low-hanging fruit of addiction and behavioral health. So it's been 30 or 60 days in that international district, and then we leave that neighborhood and it goes right back to it. So we know when it gets warm as it is today, we're going to have issues. Crime goes up when it's warm. And then I did see a couple other issues, and people were calling me yesterday. I'm not going to speak for the mayor and Chief Medina. I'll be very careful on saying that crime is down. Yes, the trend is going down. Not enough for me, but be careful saying that, because I believe when I looked at the press, it was a little contradictory. Got to be careful with how we're presenting that to the public, because even though they made their own decisions, but I won't speak for them, they're actually causing me more work. I dealt with so many phone calls, emails, text messages, explaining what they're trying to do, and it makes my job harder. That's my job. That's expected for, not whining about it. It's just, let's be a little bit more on the same page, which we did have a meeting, but APD and the governor can do what they want. I'm not going to do that as the chief law enforcement officer.
Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate your comments. Thank you, sir.
Any other members of the board, Mr. Walker, Mr. Yatsky, have any questions, Mr. Jewell? Any questions or comments for the sheriff?
No, I don't actually question. I just want to thank the sheriff for his hard work and his dedication to the community. Actually, I had a question, but you answered it as the one right before this one. You did a really good job on that. Thank you, Sheriff.
Anyone else, Mr. Jewell, Mr. Yatsky? Mr. Yatsky, none for Mr. Jewell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, thank you for being at the meeting. As you and Major Burke discussed the internal components of accountability, I'm wondering if Major Burke is also coordinating the external components. I know you all spoke of CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and particularly as it pertains to the DWI scandal. I wonder if we're kind of looking back and seeing how those external, the courts, the DA's office had a role in that, such that these agencies need to be communicating and cross-referencing the information that they have, so that we don't have a repeat of what happened previously.
Yes, no, thank you for the question. We do. So what these dashboards will do, and one of the main reasons I made a compliance officer And the compliance officer, so everyone's clear, I came up with that before we knew anything about the DWI scandal, because I saw a bunch of issues and weaknesses. That's one of my jobs as a leader, to look for weaknesses in the agency. I found one. But if you look at something simple like traffic court, what I wanted to know is if we have deputies that are missing a lot of court, we would usually get an email, but it was inconsistent. What's your why? That's what everybody lives for. So my question was, why are you missing court? But then as you get further and you're talking about external things and internal things also, who was the judge? Who was the public defender? Who was the defense attorney? And who was the prosecutor? And are these cases being dismissed or the same trend going with the same attorney as we saw in the DWI scandal? That's what I want to see before, and you would be able to address that problem and catch that orange flag before you start people getting to a comfortable pattern. So we looked at all of that, and the dashboards were also saying for the compliance officer and Major Burke, hey, we're seeing a trend on North Day Shift, and they've been getting a lot of domestic violence calls, and the domestic violence calls, a lot of the offenders have been males under the age of 26. Why are we missing court? What other training do we need to get? We need to look further out than just the scandal itself and to stop it. There's training issues, and it also comes back to any adversity you have, any problem that you have in an agency, it always comes back to community every time. So that way we can go out to the community and say, honestly, for quality control, which Major Burke will be doing, community, this is what we've been seeing. What can we do better? It drives me nuts for chiefs and sheriffs to get so mad at the public that ridicules them. Yes, it sucks sometimes, but you need to expect that when you're in a leadership position, but also understand whether it's a deputy whining, which has a great place when I still my command staff. If you have the community getting mad at you for the same thing, that means there's some type of issue or problem there. Go out and address it and see what we can do better, because ultimately it's the community that we're serving. So with everything that you're asking, I really think that this technology and the parameters we have, it's really going to be helping us become a better agency and carry on with the culture that does take a while. But to get all the bad apples and the nonsense that's going on, I think that'll answer a lot of questions. And I honestly think it's not going to take up to a year. I think we're really going to see a huge difference probably by July going into fall. And we might find another weakness that we didn't know was even there. That's what we are looking for, and that's what my job is.
Very much, Sheriff. As always, appreciate your time, appreciate your cooperation with this board. Before the sheriff leaves, any other board members have any questions or comments, any follow-up? Mr. Jachi, did you have something you wanted to comment on or ask? I believe you're muted, Ms. Jachi.
Layden, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
It shows on the computer screen that her mic is crossed through, so I think she hit the mute button.
Yeah.
If you could type it in the chat, perhaps we could read it for you, Ms. Jachi, but we can't hear you.
She was talking to us earlier.
Yeah, if you'd like to type it in the chat really quick, that'll be fine. If not, we're going to move on. Jump out, jump in sometimes that works.
It's like,
If you hit your space bar on your computer, sometimes it takes it off of.
This button, click that button, doesn't.
Hate when it works, not so much from the good.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, all right. Go ahead, Ms. Jotzi.
Okay, it was just for the sheriff and for the Burke to, I know one of the things when we were monitoring courtrooms and when our officers did not show up, and this was quite a number of years ago, but it's the same problem, is that oftentimes they would have a sheriff or APD in like 2 or 3 different rooms almost at the same time. But domestic violence was one of those, similar to DWI, where we found a lot of dismissals because the people weren't showing up or the officers were, excuse me, in another courtroom. And so I would just say that that would be another place to be able to monitor, like you had mentioned, just mentioned about maybe doing something with domestic violence as well.
So, remember, actually, this is Daniel Robinson. A long time when I was there, the courts do have a check-in system that communicates to all of the judges, officer or deputy so-and-so is before judge so-and-so. That, if a deputy's there and can't be 2 places at once, that system is in place to help.
And part of the things that we have seen in the past, like I've personally seen, where I had multiple court cases going on at the exact same time, right? Traffic, DWI, domestic violence, or something like that. So you check in, you hit the first floor, or whatever, first floor room it's the closest. You check into everyone. It sends out that mass email to all the clerks, and it literally checks you into every single courtroom. The problem lies is that if I'm in courtroom 101 and we can't work out a plea, we decide to go to trial, let's say it isn't domestic violence. I now am stuck in that courtroom, right? So I've checked in, we're ready to go to trial, and now I'm stuck in trial. So what we've had in the past is where a judge from 102, 103, 104 now call you your name if you pop up, and now all of a sudden your case is dismissed. Your case is dismissed because you failed to show up right when they call you. Sometimes it gets extended, postponed, things like that. If we end up going to trial, I usually say, like I need a state's defense or state's continuance, allowing me to reschedule that, but I can't guarantee that that will always happen. That is one of the things that we are going to look at for this new report. Like, why? What are the trends? Is it something that we can look at, maybe even prioritizing? And that's a horrible way to look at it. But again, it is something that we're going to look at, like a priority of a court case. The domestic violence is a little bit more of a priority because now we're talking about a physical victim, right? An offender and a victim involved with this in relationship to like maybe like a speaking type of a call. Not saying that that's not a dangerous type of situation dealing with a speeding, but presently a domestic violence would be a little bit higher of a priority than, like I said, maybe like a speeding or seatbelt violation or something like that.
That's it. I don't know if you can still hear me, Judge Jewel. I think you brought up something getting into judges and other attorneys reference the scandal. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I'm going to start putting pressure on the judiciary because I'm just tired of some things. But I can already see, in reference to Ms. Giotti's question, I can already see the Metro Court judges that have the highest dismissal rate. So if we're going to talk about accountability, I think that needs to go all the way around from bottom to top, top to bottom. Everybody's asking for it. Here we are. So when we come out, then don't get mad at me because your history and everything that you have done is going to show what has been going on for years. So I think this is going to hold a lot more people, just law enforcement, accountable. It's coming.
Mr. Chairman, Sheriff Allen, and that's why I mentioned that. I think it works better when there's coordination between the agencies. When something goes wrong and we operate in silos, there's always finger pointing. It's the sheriff's deputy, it's the court, it's the DA. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there should be a forum in which we discuss these issues. And justice can prevail with us collaborating around a system. I mean, I'm not talking about the substance of any of these cases. You know, some judge may conclude, well, this DWI or this domestic violence case should be dismissed. So I'm not talking about the substance, but I'm certainly trying to point out the need for coordination amongst these agencies. I know in my time in Metro Court, it was extremely important to know if these officers were in the courthouse and to know that they weren't available for testimony because they were someplace else. And so I don't know to what extent that's the case anymore, but I know that we attempted to collaborate, that we had a forum in which the heads of the various agencies, and it may be CJCC, I'm not sure, but would meet and discuss these issues so that there's not the public finger pointing that disserves the public. It doesn't solve the problem for us to say it's the court's fault. You know, the judge, I think, and I can only respond as a judge, of course, has a major problem in that the judge can't have the tail wagging the dog. The system's going to have to continue, regardless of how many conflicts an officer might have. But there are ways of coordinating to minimize those areas of conflict. So thank you, Mr. Sheriff and Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Drill. All right, well, thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Mr. Bird, for the projects and behind it. Very much appreciate you all. All right, let's move on to the next item on the agenda. It's item number 6 under old business. We'll return to adoption of the SOARB rules of procedure. This was something that we tabled, as you may recall, in our last meeting in February this year. Updated red line copy of the draft rules and procedure were sent out, I would say approximately 3 or so weeks ago. So that's plenty of time, March 4th. So hopefully that's plenty of time over a month for you all to have gone through it. So let me just start off with opening it up from questions from the board on technical aspects or technical issues or questions with the report before we entertain a motion if there's some sort of specific questions about the document. Again, we're looking at the draft 4 rules of procedure. That's draft 3. Thank you. So does anybody have any questions or comments about the substance in the document that they want to talk before we move for motions? Ms. Giacchi, do you have a hand up? I see.
Yes, and I didn't know if you were going to go through it or if you just want my comments on the couple of questions that I had. I guess probably the leading question is, and I so don't understand the Open Meetings Act, so I'm saying that as kind of a idea of, so when we do things like this, or we, put something in action, we don't have to put it on the site. We just go ahead and do it, and then we put it on the site, or I'm just confused as to the order or what goes on the site for the community to see. So that's my first question. And can someone answer that for me?
So let me, if I can rephrase your question, just to correct me if I'm wrong, you're wanting to know, in essence, if the Open Meetings Act require us to publicly post our drafts before we vote on the documents. Is that in substance what your question is?
Well, yeah, our drafts or something that we might bring up as like a policy or a procedure or something that we, are going to discuss at length. Is that something we have to put online? And that's, I guess, probably, I don't know if it means a draft. I just, what constitutes that we have to put anything online? Or do we have to? I just know that the county commissioner got in trouble for doing, doing something, but it wasn't enough people there. And so I'm just wondering what that is.
So my understanding, it has not been the practice of this board to post draft documents online for public comment, for review, or anything like that, but I will defer to our county attorney representative who is here, as well as the net from the Public Safety Division to provide a comment or two here.
So anything you guys adopt, the SOARB does put on the SOARB website. So that goes on the website for whoever wants to see it. As far as you discussing anything, public notice went out to the public, letting everybody know that you would be discussing this draft. And that has to go out. The now county manager has said 10 days prior. So 10 days prior, the Opens Meeting Act itself says 72 hours. However, we can go above and beyond. We just can't go below 72. So the county as a whole has asked for themselves and for any board under them that it is a 10-day posting of any public notice for meetings, and an agenda has to be published.
So we have complied with that. The agenda has been published, and this item was on the agenda that we'd be discussing it. But the draft was not sent out and has not been historically, and I don't think is a requirement to post the draft online prior to the meeting. So does that answer your question, Ms. Giacchi?
Yes. And then I have other questions on the draft itself, but I don't know in what order you want those or how you want those. So just let me know.
Yeah, we can do that now. If there are any questions, again, just on the substance of the draft, I think to your question earlier about are we going line by line? No, that's not what we're doing. We took this up last meeting 2 months ago. Members have had sufficient time to review it. So at this point, it is the chair's intent to open up for questions, comments from the board. And it's my intent to entertain a motion to move this item forward. So I want to just open it up. If you do have technical questions about substance of the document, we can have those questions if you'd like. If you have questions or comments, and not just you.
Okay, so on number 4, page 4, at least page 4 that I have off of the red line, it says when a subject appears on the agenda as a result of a properly presented citizen. And I was wondering what that means. Like, is that a citizen of New Mexico? Is that a citizen of the United States? Is that just anyone who can comment? I just saw the words and I was wondering what that meant.
Can you highlight what page you're at again?
Page 4, when it says, and it's number B, it says citizen submissions. And it says when a subject appears on the agenda as a result of a properly presented citizen submission. And I was just wondering what that properly presented citizen meant.
So we're looking at page 4 of draft 3, referencing citizen submissions. It states when a subject appears on an agenda as a result of a properly presented citizen submission, SOARB may, and outlines the actions we may take.
Right.
I can't speak for others' understanding of this, but the chair's understanding of this is that the procedures for anybody to make public comment to this board has already been outlined. It's on the website. And so that would be the properly presented. As long as they've gone through that proper process, it's already been pre-established, then that would be permissible here on the board. So that's the chair's interpretation, and that's how I would rule on those matters.
So then really it's just a properly presented submission, not a properly presented citizen submission. Is that correct?
I think tomato. I mean, I mean, if you want to make a recommendation to take that.
That I would.
I don't think it's going to change the substance of the the comment there.
She's getting it.
Yes, I would like to change it just to a properly presented submission.
Any questions or comments or heartburn about taking that one word out?
Tell us precisely where that is.
Draft 4,
It's
draft 3, my apologies. Page number 4.
okay, I'm gonna give it 2.
Yeah. There's draft 3.
City citizen,
Yeah, citizen submission. So it's just taking out this one word.
Yeah, just the citizen
So it's just, yeah, it's properly presented submission.
submission. Correct.
Objection to that minor change? All right. Mr. Wismer, go ahead.
I don't understand what wants refining to fix together with this.
she's distinguishing me from a citizen and a non-citizen. Okay, we have residents who are non-citizens. So a properly presented citizens, she's concerned, I think that's the issue.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think that Ms. Johnson, you can speak for yourself in terms of that's your understanding, but making sure that we're not precluding an individual from making comment to the SOARB simply because they're not a United States citizen.
Right.
That is not how the chair reads the rules of procedure. That is not how this chair would rule on an issue of public comment. It is not the chair's intent to exclude anybody from public comment, regardless of your citizenship status. So that's, hopefully that makes that kind of clear. Any other comments? Technical on the substance of?
Yes, I do. So then we go to going down to the rules of order for the conduct of meetings. And well, even before that, where it says under dissemination of draft annual report, and it says no SOARB meeting shall disseminate a draft annual or any part thereof to any outside entities unless specifically authorized to do so. And so you're not talking about the county commissioners or anything like that. If they ask how things are going or whatever, you're not dismissing the county commissioners, right? It just said outside entities, and I didn't know if county commissioners fell into that or not.
I have no idea where we are.
We're on draft 3, page 4, disseminating.
3, right?
Annual report. The statement is that the intent is that any draft documents of this board are not to be disseminated to the public without approval of the board. And then the other statement says outside entities. Which is, as Vice Chair Strongin is advising me, is defined on page 2. It's defined here on page 2 under officers and members, subsection 1.1B. Defines outside entities as local, state, federal government entities, the public, school boards, pueblos, and the media collectively outside entities. So essentially, no distribution of draft documents and reports outside of the SOARB without the express approval of a majority vote of the SOARB.
And so that would include the county commissioners as well, that they would not have access to it.
That's how the chair reads that section of the draft, yes.
Okay. All right, now we go down to, again, page 4, and it says that the will of the majority while protecting the rights of the minority. And I just want to, and that democracy means majority rules, and I would question that on whether or not majority means that majority rules, and that's democracy. I would also say that what we need to do, and especially when we're looking at trying to facilitate a larger collaborative movement to underserved communities, that we recognize the equality of both majority and minority components in that, and that all too often, what we really need to understand is that the rules should also be equally protecting the minority. So I just wanted to say that. I don't know if you want to put that in a different way, but I just am not comfortable with the majority rules, and that's democracy. So I just wanted to put that in there. And we
Anything
can,
else?
and we can go to number 5. And it says the chair should be well versed in the rules. You know, and I know we're going to be talking about a standing quorum in a little bit, so I'll defer until we talk about that. And then it also has on page 5 on the basic format for agenda, it says that the chair should invite the appropriate people to report an item, and I was just wondering what that definition was about who is the appropriate people, or are you talking about the people on the committee, or are you talking about the whole board? I was just confused as to what the appropriate people to report on the item was, if you were talking about what?
So can you point us to where you're talking about on the document? I'm not seeing that. Page 5.
On page 5, number B, under second, following the agenda format, the chair should invite the appropriate people to report on the item, including any recommendation they may have. So I'm just wondering if everybody gets to do that, or if it's only certain people who are qualified as appropriate for that particular comment, or what. So I was just looking for clarification.
Yeah, so again, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but since the chair is the one responsible for enforcing these rules, I want to just provide and be very clear on what my understanding of it is and what my intention, as long as I am chair, how I intend to enforce these rules. I understand this simply to be whatever is on the agenda item. The chair follows that agenda item, just like we did today. So the sheriff was on the agenda. He's the appropriate person to speak when he's on the agenda. And as we just saw earlier, every member of the board had an opportunity to ask questions and offer comments to the sheriff. If we had public comment, that would be the appropriate time for the public to reference comments. So that's simply all that means. I wouldn't read too much into it. It's just simply following the agenda, and whoever has a comment on that item, this is a public forum. And it's my intent to allow everybody who wants to speak on an item to do so. But I'm going to do it in an orderly fashion according to our pre-approved agenda.
And I so appreciate, Ray, your idea of how things should go, and the decorum and the collaborative nature. I also have been part of many times where somebody is trying to wordsmith and say, well, is this appropriate? Is this not? I mean, I'm sure the attorneys in there can also talk about the bees, the ats, the wheres, the wherefore. I mean, I just want to make sure that that's clarified. And I appreciate your statement because that adds more to it. Then we're looking on page 5 on number 9th. And I just was looking at clarification. It says the chair, or at the chair's request, or in the chair's absence, the county manager liaison to the SOARB. And I was wondering who is designated as our county manager liaison, because it says takes a vote by either asking the members. So it sounds like if it's in the chair's absence, but I was just wondering about the co-chairs.
So,
You know,
the net is the official county employee who's the board liaison from the county to this board. As you know, we have the county manager. We also have Mr. Esteban, who does public communications. So as it stands now, the net is that county liaison. It's essentially whoever the county manager designates. And as of now, it's the net.
Okay, so liaison or liaisons, either or, somebody will be stepping into that position. Is that correct?
What position are you referring to? Typically taking the roll call vote? Yes, they're able to take a roll call vote. But they're not going to step into the position of chair. That is not their role.
Just taking,
They would just take the roll call vote at the direction of the chair.
Okay. I mean, I find that there's a few other little problematic components, but if I hear you as the chair say that you're going to try to conduct business as being always inclusive, always supportive of the minority component, and always working towards a collaborative nature for the entire SOARB, then I will go ahead and rest for the rest of the questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Giacchi. Let me just add just one clarifying thing. Your summary of my intentions is correct. Having said that, it is my intention to follow the agenda. So where discussions and conversations begin to veer off into topics that are not on a pre-approved agenda, I will steer those back on topic. So I just want to make clear of that. We want to be open and communicative, but we want to move things forward and we want to stay on topic. All right. Any other comments, substantive wise, on the draft report from any other members of the board? Anybody online? Not seeing any hands. All right. So one minor change, and now we're just removing that one word, citizen, in that one section. Other than that, no other agreed upon substantive change. So with that caveat of that minor change, I will entertain a motion. It's been moved by Dr. Layden to approve the draft. That's been seconded by Mr. Wismer.
And I'd like to come to the as amended with that one.
Gotcha. So would you mind, Mr. Wismer, maybe restate the motion that is on the table?
For the board, the motion that's on the table is to approve the rules of procedure, conduct of meetings, draft 3, with the amendment of the removal of the word citizen from the paragraph designated on page 4.
Okay, does everybody understand the motion on the table? Our board liaison is not here, so we'll do just all in favor say yes.
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 Any
I've-
opposed? I'm sorry, Mr. Giacchi, what's your vote? Yes or no?
It's no.
Okay. All right, so I'm seeing 8 yeses and 1 no. And again, our board liaison's not here, so if I missed that number, please speak up. 8 in favor, 1 opposed. Motion passes. The new rules of procedure have been adopted. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your comment. Let's move on now very quickly to item number 6 under old business, adoption of SOARB committee charters. Unfortunately, the chair does not have a copy in front of him. Thank you, Dr. Layden. She's turned out a copy. So let me just very, very quickly just introduce this. It's again something we discussed from our last meeting about streamlining our committee structures, trying to align them more closely with the enabling legislation for this board, that is the ordinance. And the proposal was to get established 4 committees, specifically, each of them relating to a section of the ordinance that gives us our authority and duties, as well as some just basic guidelines and rules of procedure whereby the committees would operate. Again, this went out on the same date that the previous document we just discussed did, so hopefully you've all had a chance to review it. We'll sort of follow the same methodology we did before. Anybody have any technical questions on the substance of this proposed committee charters? Seeing any questions on the substance of the document, the chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the office advisory committee charters as presented.
All right, it's been moved to adopt the Sheriff's Office Advisory and Review Board Committee charters as presented. It's been seconded by Dr. Layden as well as Mr. Stewart. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll entertain a vote. All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no.
No,
Okay, so we've got 8 yes and 1 no. Motion passes. The committee charters have been adopted. Okay, so before we move on to the new items of business, while we're on the committee charters, I don't know that we need to make the assignments at the moment, but I do want to encourage the members of the board to go through this charter document. Think about which of the committees you have an interest in serving on. You can serve on as many or as little as you want. But one thing we want to make sure that we do have at least 2 members for each committee, so we don't want a committee run just by one individual. And we also want to try to keep them at a minimum of 4, so that we don't run into Open Meetings Act. So you can freely meet and discuss things without triggering the Open Meetings Act.
Maximum.
A maximum of 4, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So anyway, so think about that. You can certainly email the chair. We can talk about it at our next meeting, but just, and then open for comments as well now. So if anybody has any comments or things they want to express regarding the committee assignments and work going forward. All right. So we'll anticipate taking this up again next meeting and really just talking a little bit more in depth about who wants to serve on which committee. So please come to the next meeting with having thought about that. Anticipate maybe we'll even think about some proactive things on what we want to do. What are some of the priorities that we want to look at this year? Some areas of focus that the committees can start working on. That the board can have consensus on that. Okay, so with that, thank you all very much. Let's move on to item number 7, new business. This next item, 7A, was an item that Dr. Layden had requested. So I'll turn the floor over to Dr. Layden for the discussion on rolling quorums and private communication.
Several new members, so I thought we should talk about rolling quorums. Daniel Robertson's here. It's my understanding that the quorum, 5 members of the board are not permitted to get together and make a decision privately about some matter before the board. There's also the issue of private communications when members of the board talk to each other and in effect bring about a decision that hasn't been fully presented to the board. So I thought we could talk about this for a moment. Maybe Daniel can guide us on rolling quorums and private communications. Thank you.
So, thank you, Dr. Layden. I wanted to open up the general Open Meetings Act to give a definition of a rolling quorum. Is that contradictory? I found it on my site in the system. But generally speaking, I know a quorum is the ability when there's enough members to vote on the topic. And the Open Meetings Act warrants all public bodies with voting capacity in the state of New Mexico to be cautious of rolling quorum. Traditionally, it's like telephone. Telephone, are you okay with this? They will, you okay with this? It eliminates the public part of the open meetings. And that is why we discourage 5 or more members from meeting or discussing the topic. Considered a rolling quorum, but it happens to be telephone or it could be, those are the most common ways. So I think this board does a pretty good job of sticking to 4 or less. And when they do meet for lunch, we publicize it, that will not be discussed. And that would protect everyone's excuse to either a forum or and the schools where they have that specific language phase. This is more
I'm just this policy.
That's pretty. I did summarize.
Yeah.
It is pretty lengthy, but I give a summary of what this says.
We should give all the examples here.
there's a lot of examples of rolling quorums in the open meeting act, because we have it in New Mexico, quite, people are creative and they find ways to get around the law. And so all of the examples exist for me.
Thank you very much. Any other board members have comments on this?
Yeah, I guess it's a little hard to hear. I didn't know if you were saying yes, you can have a rolling or standing quorum, or no, because at least according to Robert's Rules of Order, there isn't like a standing or rolling quorum. The minute you lose someone that puts you down to the, you no longer have a quorum, you have to stop. There's a lot of things you can do, but taking votes or doing things like that, they're saying that you can't do that. So I guess I couldn't hear whether you were saying yes, no, or in New Mexico, you never can tell.
In New Mexico, the Open Meetings Act prohibits a rolling quorum, because you're aware regular quorums for this board, 5 members, which is enough to vote and pass. A rolling quorum is intended to prevent that from happening without being in a meeting. So either a game of telephone with Commissioner A calls Commissioner B on the topic, they both agree they're going to vote on something. B calls C, they're both agree they're going to vote on something. And this is behind the scenes discussion, correct? Which is intended to be public. And the way it applies to this board is we discourage 5 or more members meeting for either subcommittees or any substantive topic. And if it's 4 or less members, you have enough to amend or create documentation for the main board and not violate, not have enough votes to violate the actual Open Meetings Act, because the work they work on will be presented to the main board, and the intent would be for the main board to discuss that.
I think a good example of that will be a lot of our draft documents, right, where we'll have, 2 or 3 board members that are communicating back and forth with regards to putting together a draft document. There's no decisions made on that. Obviously, all the approvals come from a vote of the board. But somebody has to simply draft the document and put it together to present it to them. So that would be a good example. It would not violate the Open Meetings Act, but where you have members talking about, substance of a draft document. It's just, somebody's got to do it. So there's no other way around it. Anyone else? Any other comments or questions on this topic?
Private communications, do you have a comment? Board members talking to each other outside of board meetings?
You are allowed to communicate with one-on-one with other members of the board. It is discouraged to talk about items that will be voted on because of the potential of being a telephone where A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to B, and then we have a theoretical forum. But it's frowned upon, but it's hard to say. It's not really important, but it's not.
Thank you. Just so we all know. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments, questions on this topic? Seeing and hearing none, let's move on to the last item on their new business, the BCSO Compliance Officer position. I don't really have anything to add. The sheriff was here. We heard from him, his intentions. All the members of the board should have received an email from me a couple of weeks ago. Just kind of giving you an update, actually letting you know that the sheriff had reached out, invited the SOARB to participate, just as he had said today. So some of you had responded positively, others didn't. And so this item really is just to open up comments. If anybody had any comments, questions, or wanted to discuss anything with relation to the BCSO Compliance Officer position that the Sheriff's Office is hiring, and more specifically, the SOARB's participation in the interview process for that candidate. So with that, I'll open it up for questions, comments, discussion. Mr. Wismer.
I wasn't quite clear with the sheriff's comments about, does he want the entire board to participate in one member of the board? In the interview panel? I'm not sure yet. Please suggest it.
So Mr. Wismer, for those who may not have heard, it asked if the sheriff's intention was to have the entire board participate in that process or a single member. It's my understanding the sheriff is inviting a single member of the board, not the whole board, as one of the interview panels among other county representatives that he is intending to be on that interview panel. Very good question, sir. Any other questions, comments?
So this jurisdiction.
Yes, so as my email had stated to you all that I sent out, the sheriff called and expressed the formal invitation to the board after consultation with the county attorney and others. I believe as chair of the board would be appropriate person, appropriate member as the official representative to serve in that capacity. As my email stated to you, though, I did welcome your feedback. Some of you gave me some feedback. Most of you did not. So again, if there is, feedback, I welcome that here. I obviously welcome you to talk to me, one-on-one after the meeting as well. So
Can you keep us posted when you have a meeting? Can you tell us what's going on with that? Please.
yes, very, very good request, Dr. Layden. And I think in the short time that I have been chair of this board, it's only been a couple of months. I think you all know that I have been very transparent and open. So when I communicate with the county commission, I let you know. When I communicate with the sheriff, I let you know. When I receive communication from the county or the sheriff, I let you know. I think you've seen that in the last few months, and it's my intentions to continue that transparency with this board. So yes, ma'am, thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's move on finally to the last of the meeting. Thank you all for hanging with us. This has been a long one, but we appreciate it. Covered a lot of business here today. Let's talk about the next meeting. So we have decided we're meeting every other month. And so that would put us into a June timeframe. And so that would put us on June 13th, Friday, June 13th. If we stayed with our second Friday of the month, every other month, so June 13th, any conflicts with Friday, June 13th, 1 p.m., presumably in this room? Yes, sir, Mr. Stewart.
I'll be at the chief benefits conference.
Okay,
But I can zoom in.
okay, perfect. Seeing no other questions or major conflicts? So we'll put it on the calendar for Friday, June 13th at 1 p.m. The chair will now entertain a motion to adjourn. So it's been moved to adjourn our meeting by Mr. Stewart. Can we get a second?
Second.
Been seconded by Vice Chair Debbie Strongin. All in favor to adjourn, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
Wonderful
Have a good
meeting,
day.
Mr. Chair.
You did a good job. Bye-bye.
Yes.